Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Have you ever felt trapped in the same routine? Waking up, rushing to work, earning just enough to survive, and repeating it all again tomorrow? You work hard, but somehow, wealth still feels out of reach. You dream of freedom, but the bills never stop. You want more from life, but no one ever taught you how money truly works. Now pause. Ask yourself, what if everything you've been taught about money is a lie? That's the moment I discovered the most life-changing truth from Rich Dad Poor Dad. The rich don't work for money. Wait, what? Aren't we all taught to work hard, get a good job, save money, and retire? But here's the brutal reality. That's the formula for staying poor or middle class forever. This book, this idea, it shattered everything I believed. And it all began with a simple yet powerful lesson from two dads, one rich, one poor. Let's begin. Robert Kiyosaki grew up with two father figures. One was his biological father, his poor dad. A highly educated man. A PhD. Someone who believed in working for a stable job, getting good grades, and climbing the corporate ladder. He thought money was evil, and security was everything. The other was his best friend Mike's father, his rich dad. A man who had dropped out of school but built a financial empire. He believed in financial education, investments, and letting money work for you. As a young boy, Robert was confused. One dad said, "Go to school, get a job, and work your way up." The other said, "Learn how money works, and make it work for you." One said, "The love of money is the root of all evil." The other said, "The lack of money is the root of all evil." Which one was right? At age 9, Robert and his friend Mike went to Rich Dad and asked, "How do we become rich?" Instead of handing them money or a lecture, Rich Dad gave them an opportunity. He hired them for 10 cents an hour, making them work long hours in a small store. It wasn't fair. It wasn't comfortable. And that was the point. After weeks of hard work, frustration, and no real money, Robert confronted Rich Dad, demanding fair pay or he'd quit. That's when Rich Dad smiled and taught him his first lesson. Most people are controlled by two emotions, fear and greed. Fear of being broke makes them work jobs they hate. Greed makes them chase promotions and bigger salaries, but they never escape the rat race. The poor and middle class work for money, he said, but the rich make money work for them. This was revolutionary. You see, working harder doesn't necessarily make you richer. Because when you work for money, you're always one step behind, tied to a paycheck, taxed more, spending more, and saving less. But when you understand money, when you invest, when you build assets, when you learn, you start to own your time, your future, your life. This is where Rich Dad's mindset differs from the world. He believed that financial education is the most powerful tool anyone can have. Not school textbooks, not job titles, but understanding assets, liabilities, cash flow, investing, and entrepreneurship. He wasn't teaching Robert how to earn more per hour. He was teaching him how to break free from the idea of trading time for money altogether. And that's the true beginning of the Rich Dad Poor Dad journey. So now, let me ask you again. Are you working for money, or is your money working for you? Because if you're stuck in that cycle, working just to survive, maybe it's time to rethink everything. Start asking better questions. Start building better habits. Start choosing better beliefs. This isn't just about getting rich. It's about becoming financially free, so you can live a life on your own terms. Because the wealthy don't chase paychecks. They build systems, own assets, and invest in knowledge. The rich don't work for money. They make money work for them. Imagine growing up with two fathers. One is well-educated, highly respected, with a stable government job, and believes in hard work and job security. The other, a dropout, a businessman, a man who owns companies, talks about investments, and says things like, "The poor work for money. The rich make money work for them." Now, here's the twist. Both men love you. Both give you advice. But their words, their beliefs, polar opposites. One says, "Money doesn't matter." The other says, "Money is power if you learn how to use it." One teaches you to play it safe. The other urges you to take calculated risks. This is not a story of a boy choosing between good and bad. It's a story of choosing between traditional thinking and financial freedom. Robert Kiyosaki was a young boy living in Hawaii. He had two father figures, his real father and his best friend Mike's father. His real father was his poor dad. Mike's father became his rich dad. Now here's the part that makes this chapter so powerful. Both dads were successful, but in very different ways. Poor dad had all the qualifications the world admires: college degrees, government titles, steady promotions. But despite that, he always struggled with money. He worked hard, paid taxes, paid bills, and never truly broke free. Rich dad, on the other hand, didn't finish high school. But he owned businesses. He bought real estate. He understood how money flows. And he taught Robert that financial intelligence, not school grades, is what builds true wealth. Lesson 1. Contrasting beliefs that shape your destiny. Here's how these two father figures thought differently. Poor dad. Go to school, get a secure job. I can't afford that. The rich are greedy. Money is the root of all evil. Study hard to get a good job. Rich dad. Learn how money works and build your own path. How can I afford that? The rich give more because they have more. The lack of money is the root of all evil. Study money to own the job. It wasn't just about what they said, it was about what they believed. Poor dad believed in earning a paycheck. Rich dad believed in creating assets that generate cash flow. And this difference changed Robert's life. Lesson 2. The power of financial education. When Robert was 9, he asked his rich dad how to become rich. Instead of giving a simple answer, rich dad said, "I can teach you, but you must first learn how money works." And it wasn't from textbooks. It was through real-world experience, through learning by doing, and most importantly, through learning how to think differently about money. Most schools teach us to be employees. They don't teach us to be investors, creators, or entrepreneurs. They don't teach us about taxes, debt, cash flow, or leverage. And that's the trap. We grow up thinking that a job is security. But in reality, a job is just a temporary solution, unless you know how to use your income to build assets. Assets like a rental property, a businesses, a stocks, a intellectual property. These are what the rich focus on. They spend their energy building pipelines, while most people carry buckets. Lesson 3. It's not about income, it's about mindset. Both dads earned money, but only one became truly wealthy. Why? Because rich dad thought like a rich person, even when he was poor. He didn't chase higher salaries. He focused on building systems, understanding markets, hiring smart people, and always learning about money. Poor dad, despite being brilliant academically, said things like, "I'm not interested in money. I'll never be rich. I'll leave it to the experts." But here's the truth. What you believe becomes your reality. If you believe you'll never be rich, you won't be. If you believe investing is too risky, you'll stay safe and stuck. If you believe money is hard to understand, you'll avoid learning it. Your mindset is your foundation. Lesson 4. Start young, but it's never too late. This chapter reminds us that financial education starts with curiosity. When Robert started learning from his rich dad, he wasn't reading investment books. He was asking questions. He was observing. He was doing small business deals, understanding sales, dealing with customers, real-world money training. And the earlier you start, the better. But even if you're 30, 40, or 60, it's never too late. Because wealth doesn't start with money. It starts with awareness. This chapter isn't just a comparison between two men. It's a mirror. Which dad do you listen to in your own life? The one who says, "Play it safe. Get a job. Retire someday." Or the one who says, "Take control. Learn. Build assets. Be free." Here's the truth. You have the power to choose your financial future. Not your background. Not your grades. Not your job. Your choices, your beliefs, your financial education, that is what builds wealth. So, what mindset are you living with? Rich dad or poor dad? Chapter 2. The Rich Don't Work for Money. Have you ever wondered why some people work harder and harder, but never seem to get ahead? They wake up early. They work long hours. They sacrifice time, energy, and even health. And yet, financial freedom remains just out of reach.
Why?
Because they've been taught to work for money, instead of learning how to make money work for them. This is the trap. This is the rat race. This is what the rich escape, while most never even realize they're trapped. This chapter isn't just about money, it's about control. And it begins with one simple truth. The rich don't work for money. They make money work for them. Let me explain how. The emotional turning point. Robert was only 9 years old when he got his first lesson from Rich Dad, and it wasn't in a classroom. It was behind the counter of a small store, working for just 10 cents an hour. At first, he thought it was an opportunity. But after a few weeks, frustration kicked in. Long hours. Tiny pay. No freedom. So, he did what most people would do. He got angry. He wanted to quit. He demanded more money. He was about to walk away when Rich Dad called him in and said, "If you quit now, you'll be like most people. They work hard for money, but they never learn how money works." And just like that, Robert's eyes were opened. Fear and greed control most lives. Rich Dad taught a powerful truth that most of us never hear. People's lives are forever controlled by two emotions, fear and greed. Fear of being broke keeps people in jobs they hate. Greed makes them chase more money, more things, more comfort, believing it will make them happy. This cycle is dangerous. You work out of fear. You get your paycheck. Then you spend it on things that give momentary pleasure. Then you fear being broke again. So you work harder. And the cycle repeats. Sound familiar? That, my friend, is the rat race. And guess what? Schools don't teach you how to get out. They teach you how to be a good employee, not how to become financially free. The lesson in not getting paid. Now here's the brilliance of Rich Dad's lesson. He intentionally underpaid Robert to trigger discomfort. Not to be cruel, but to create awareness. Because only when you're uncomfortable do you start asking better questions. Why am I doing this? Is this all there is? How do I escape this cycle? That's when Rich Dad stepped in with the gold. Most people give up their power by relying on a paycheck. But if you want to be rich, you must stop thinking like a wage earner and start thinking like an investor. Work to learn, not to earn. Rich Dad wasn't saying, "Don't work." He was saying, "Don't work just for money. Work to learn. Work to grow. Work to build your mindset." Most people trade time for money. The rich trade ideas for money. They build systems. They buy assets. They understand leverage. The poor and middle class say, "I need a better paying job." The rich say, "How do I create value? How do I build assets that earn even when I sleep?" It's not about how much you earn. It's about how you think. Money is an illusion. Understand it to master it. Money isn't real. It's an idea. It's a tool. But if you don't understand how it flows, how it grows, how it multiplies, you'll always be a slave to it. Rich Dad challenged Robert to stop thinking like an employee and start thinking like a business owner. Instead of asking, "Can I get a raise?" ask, "How can I make money without working more hours?" This mindset shift is the beginning of financial freedom. Developing financial intelligence, the true asset. Here's the ultimate lesson of this chapter. Your greatest asset isn't your job, your house, or your bank account. Your greatest asset is your financial intelligence. The more you know about how money works, the less you fear it. The less you fear it, the more control you gain. And when you're in control, you're no longer a slave to the paycheck. You are free. So, I'll ask you again. Are you working for money, or is your money working for you? Because the wealthy, those who truly understand money, don't chase it. They attract it. They design systems, they invest in learning, and they refuse to be owned by a paycheck. Most people live their entire lives in fear. They let money control them, rather than learning how to control money. Don't be one of them. Start asking better questions. Start studying how money moves. Start working to learn, not just to earn. Because once you do, you'll stop being a prisoner of money, and you'll finally become its master. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Chapter 3, Why Teach Financial Literacy? Let me ask you something. If you lost your job today, how long could you survive? A week? A month? A year? Most people would panic, because they've built their entire lives depending on just one thing, a paycheck. We go to school. We study hard. We're told to get good grades so we can land a good job. But here's the truth nobody tells you. Even with a high-paying job, you can still be broke if you don't understand how money works. This is why Rich Dad believed so deeply in teaching financial literacy, something our schools have completely ignored. Because it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much you keep, how wisely you spend, and how well you grow it. Let's dive into the heart of this chapter. The real definition of financial literacy. Financial literacy doesn't mean being good at math. It doesn't mean knowing how to calculate interest or balance a checkbook. Financial literacy means knowing the difference between an asset and a liability, and doing everything you can to buy assets and reduce liabilities. That's it. That's the simple, overlooked key to wealth. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out. Seems simple, right? But the tragedy is, most people think their house is an asset. They think their car is an asset. They think a promotion means they're richer. But if your house costs you money every month, if your car drains your wallet with fuel and maintenance, if your higher salary just increases your spending, then you're not getting richer. You're just becoming a better paid slave. Income doesn't equal wealth. Robert's poor dad made a good income. He was well educated, hard-working, and respected. But he was always struggling financially. Why? Because he didn't know how to manage his money. He didn't invest. He didn't understand assets. He believed that a higher salary was the solution to every financial problem. On the other hand, Rich Dad had less formal education, but he was financially intelligent. He understood the language of money. He built businesses. He acquired assets. He created cash flow. And here's the key. Even when he earned less, he was becoming richer, because his money was working for him. The cash flow pattern of the poor, middle class, and rich. In this chapter, Robert shows 3 cash flow patterns that define your financial life. 1. The poor. Earn money, pay bills, stay broke. Their money disappears as fast as it comes. 2. The middle class. Earn money, buy liabilities they think are assets. House, car, credit cards, bigger paycheck, bigger expenses. They look rich but live in quiet desperation. 3. The rich. Earn money, buy assets, assets generate more income. Their money creates more money. They build financial freedom. So the question becomes, which pattern are you living in? Why schools fail us financially? Let's be honest. Schools don't teach us how to build wealth. They teach us how to memorize facts, pass exams, and fit into the system. But they don't teach how to read a financial statement, how to manage debt, how taxes work, how to build passive income, how to escape the paycheck-to-paycheck life. And without this knowledge, even smart, educated people end up working for money their whole lives. This is why financial literacy is not optional, it's essential. The power of understanding assets and liabilities. Rich Dad drilled this one lesson over and over. Buy assets. Avoid liabilities. That's the rule. He made Robert and Mike draw financial statements at a young age. Not just income and expenses, but assets and liabilities. That simple diagram taught them more than years of school ever could. Every time you earn money, you face a choice. Spend it, save it, or invest it in something that produces income. The rich don't save to save. They save to invest. They use money to buy freedom. The trap of lifestyle inflation. Here's where most people fall into a trap. As income rises, they increase their lifestyle. More money equals bigger house. More money equals newer car. More money equals more expenses. But if those things don't produce cash flow, they're liabilities. The rich. They don't upgrade their lifestyle first. They upgrade their assets first, then let those assets pay for the lifestyle. That's financial literacy in action. The freedom assets bring. Rich Dad wasn't teaching Robert to be rich just to have nice things. He was teaching him how to be free. Freedom is when your passive income covers your living expenses. Freedom is when you wake up and choose what to do with your day. Freedom is when you stop chasing money, because your assets are already working for you. And you can't reach that freedom without financial literacy. It's not about luck. It's not about being born rich. It's about being smart with money. The wake-up call, a new way to think. So many people today live under pressure. Debt, stress, dependence on one paycheck. Trapped in a cycle they can't escape. But it doesn't have to be that way. You don't need to be a genius. You don't need a finance degree. You just need to learn what the rich understand. Know the difference between assets and liabilities. Spend less on things that take money out. Invest more in things that bring money in. Focus on cash flow, not just net worth. Build a financial foundation that lasts. Financial literacy isn't just about numbers. It's about regaining control of your life. Final message: smooth transition to next learning. The path to wealth doesn't begin with a bigger salary. It begins with a shift in mindset. This chapter isn't just a lesson. It's a wake-up call. If you want to be rich, if you want to be free, if you want to break the cycle, then don't just work for money. Learn how money works. Learn how to build assets. And most importantly, become financially literate. Because knowledge, applied knowledge, is the most powerful wealth-building tool of all. Chapter 4. Mind your own business. Think about this for a moment. You work day and night for a company. You give your best years to someone else's dream. You sacrifice your time, your health, your energy. And at the end of it all, what do you truly own? A title, a salary, a company car that's not even yours. But here's the brutal truth. If you stop working today, the money stops too. That's not freedom. That's dependence. And that's exactly why Rich Dad said, the secret to wealth is simple: mind your own business. No, he didn't mean be selfish. He meant something far more powerful. Start building something that belongs to you. Your assets, your wealth, your freedom. Let's unpack this lesson. From a young age, Robert was taught something different by Rich Dad. While most people were focused on climbing the corporate ladder, Rich Dad was building assets. He said, you can work for someone else, but never forget to mind your own business on the side. Most people confuse their profession with their business. A doctor may think medicine is their business, but if all their income stops when they stop working, they're not in business. They're employed. Rich Dad's definition of business was different. Your business is where your assets live. Your business is what keeps paying you, even when you stop working. Your business is what gives you freedom, not just a paycheck. Here's what most people miss. They work harder when they should be working smarter. They try to impress others with titles, when they should be focused on building ownership. They trade time for money, hoping to someday save enough to retire. But in truth, the rich don't rely on jobs, they build portfolios. While others chase promotions, the rich chase assets. While others focus on income, the rich focus on ownership. And that's what mind your own business truly means. Don't just work in someone else's system. Build your own. Now, Rich Dad wasn't saying quit your job tomorrow. He was saying, use your job as a tool, not a trap. Pay your bills, yes. But don't spend everything. Use your salary to buy assets, not liabilities. Even if you're working full-time, you can still mind your own business by investing in real estate, buying dividend-paying stocks, starting a side business, creating intellectual property, books, courses, content, acquiring royalties, licensing, or digital assets. Because every dollar you save and invest in assets, that's a soldier working for your freedom. Don't just be a great employee. Be an investor, a creator, a quiet builder of wealth. Let's look at two people. Person A earns $1,000,000 a month, but spends $95,000. They have a beautiful house, a new car, and an expensive lifestyle. But zero assets. Person B earns $50,000 a month, but puts away $20,000 every month into income-generating assets. Fast forward 10 years. Who do you think will be free? The answer is obvious. Because income makes you feel rich. But assets make you become rich. That's why the rich get richer, because they're always focused on buying more assets, not just earning more income. Rich Dad warned Robert. The middle class confuses liabilities with assets. They think, a bigger house is an asset. A new car is an asset. Designer clothes are an investment. But these things take money out of your pocket every month. They don't generate income. They don't create value. They create debt. Rich Dad taught, before you buy anything, ask yourself, will this put money in my pocket, or take it out? That simple question will change your life. Robert's real-life lesson. When Robert and Mike were young, they started their first real asset, a small comic book library. They didn't have money. They didn't have a degree. But they had creativity, hustle, a desire to build something of their own. That's what Rich Dad was teaching. Start small. Think long-term. Mind your own business. Even at age 9, they were planting seeds. Because wealth doesn't grow overnight. It grows intentionally, with discipline, over time. The importance of keeping expenses low. In this chapter, Rich Dad also emphasized, keep your expenses low and invest every extra rupee into assets. Why? Because the less you spend, the more you can buy things that make you rich. Too many people get a raise and immediately upgrade their lifestyle. New car, fancy apartment, higher credit limits. But the wealthy, they delay gratification. They buy freedom first, toys later, and eventually their assets pay for everything. Mind your mindset, protect your focus. Mind your own business isn't just about money, it's also about attention. Don't get distracted by what everyone else is doing. While others are busy upgrading their Instagram lifestyle, you should be quietly building your empire. Let them laugh. Let them judge. Because in a few years, you'll be living free. Not working 9 to 5. Not trapped in debt. Not begging for a raise. You'll own your time, your income, your life. That's the reward for those who mind their business. Smooth transition toward the bigger picture. Rich Dad's message was never about being greedy. It was about being free. Freedom to choose. Freedom to rest. Freedom to give. But you can't help others if you're drowning in your own debt. You can't change lives if you can't even change your own. So build quietly. Focus relentlessly. And remember, the rich focus on their assets. The poor and middle class focus on their income. Now ask yourself, what are you focusing on? Rich Dad Poor Dad, Chapter 5, The History of Taxes and the Power of Corporations. Let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered why the harder you work, the more you seem to pay in taxes? While the richest people and biggest companies keep getting richer and somehow pay less. It's frustrating, right? You wake up, work 9 to 5, and by the time your paycheck hits the bank, a big chunk is already gone. Uncle Sam takes his cut before you even get yours. You accept it, thinking that's just how the system works. But here's the truth they don't teach in school. The system was never designed for employees. It was built by the rich, for the rich. And if you don't understand the history of taxes and the power of corporations, you're playing a game that was rigged from the start. Rich Dad's wisdom begins. Rich Dad used to say, the middle class and the poor work for money. The rich make money work for them. And then they protect it, legally. He would smile, lean in, and ask, do you know why I own my company instead of being an employee? Taxes. You see, Rich Dad believed financial education wasn't just about money. It was about understanding the rules of the game. And in this game, corporations are like a legal shield protecting and multiplying wealth, while average people are stuck trying to survive after taxes drain their earnings. The history of taxes, a hidden agenda. Let's go back in time for a moment. Originally, income tax was never meant for the average person. It was created during times of war, meant to tax only the rich. The government said, "We'll tax the wealthy just this once." But here's the twist. Once the system was in place, they moved the burden to the middle class and poor, who didn't have the power to fight back.
Why?
Because the poor and middle class don't have accountants, lawyers, or corporations on their side. They have a job, a paycheck, and zero control. The more you earn as an employee, the more you get taxed. But the more you earn as a corporation, the more you keep, and legally. That's the brutal reality. How the rich use corporations to their advantage. A corporation isn't just a big building with glass doors and boardrooms. A corporation is a legal entity. It's like a robot that works for you. It earns money, spends money, deducts expenses, and only pays tax on what's left. Now compare that to an employee. An employee, earned, get taxed, spend what's left. A corporation, earned, spend, get taxed on the leftovers. See the difference? Let's say you made $100,000. As an employee, you pay taxes first. That could leave you with $70,000 or less. Then you pay your bills, rent, car, and try to save something. As a business owner through a corporation, you deduct your office rent, your travel, your meals, even your phone and laptop, before the government takes their slice. That's the secret. Rich Dad taught Robert this young. Own nothing, but control everything. That's the rich man's strategy. Business equals power equals protection. Corporations are not just about tax savings. They offer protection. They create leverage. If someone sues you as an individual, your personal assets are on the line. But if they sue your corporation, your personal wealth is shielded. Now combine this with smart investments, real estate, and business cash flow, and you've created an engine that builds wealth 24/7, all while paying a fraction of the taxes that the average person does. That's not greed. That's strategy. That's financial intelligence. Why the school system doesn't teach this? Now you may ask, why don't we learn this in school? Because schools are designed to create employees, not entrepreneurs. They want obedient workers, not free thinkers. Nobody teaches you how to start a business, how to create a corporation, or how to lower your taxes legally. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. And if you don't educate yourself, you become fuel for the machine. The big lesson: mindset shift. This chapter isn't just about taxes or companies. It's about how you see the world. Poor Dad saw taxes as a civic duty. He believed the rich should pay more. Rich Dad saw taxes as a game, and corporations as the tool to win. You get to choose. Do you want to stay on the hamster wheel? Or do you want to own the wheel? Because once you understand how corporations work, once you see how the tax system favors those who create, risk, and build, you will never look at money the same way again. Chapter 6. The rich invent money. You're stuck in a job. A decent salary. Some savings. But you look around and notice the rich around you making money, even when they sleep. They don't just rely on salaries. They seem to find money in thin air. How do they do it? This chapter reveals a foundational truth. The rich invent money. No, they don't create counterfeit bills. They see opportunities where others don't. They create value. They make deals. They multiply ideas into income. And you can learn to do it too. Robert Kiyosaki describes how Rich Dad taught him to be alert, not to what's visible, but to what's possible. One day they noticed a small plot of land near a busy street. Most people saw weeds. Rich Dad saw parking space potential, rented it out, and turned a small space into constant income. That's the power of financial vision. A see value in overlooked assets. A recognize trends before they become obvious. Invent solutions that create cash when others see nothing. This creative mindset, the ability to invent money, is how the wealthy build their fortunes. Rich Dad believed in learning multiple disciplines. Accounting, understanding finances. Investing, knowing how to deploy capital. A market insight, identifying demand and timing, a legal knowledge, leveraging laws and structures. These 4 pillars fuel the rich's ability to invent money legally and sustainably. It's not a secret formula. It's a blend of knowledge, awareness, and boldness. Rich Dad taught Robert and Mike that fear and cynicism hold most people back from seeing opportunities. They walk past a run-down building and see only decay. The rich see potential renovation income. They walk past an old business and see untapped market opportunity. They don't wait for perfect timing. They learn to create timing. Because the rich invent money by combining creativity with calculated risk. This chapter emphasizes that money itself isn't the resource. Your brain is. A poor investor might think, I don't have funds to start. A rich investor asks, what knowledge or network can I leverage to begin? They collaborate. They form partnerships. They bootstrap with knowledge and strategy. Most investors fail, not because of money, but because of a lack of financial brainpower. Rich Dad shared stories. Buying low-profile properties or junked businesses at rock-bottom prices. Using creative financing, other people's money, seller financing, leverage. Turning overlooked markets into passive income streams. One classic example, buying a dilapidated property, rehabbing it, and renting it out. Over time, rental income and appreciation generate thousands more than the original investment. This isn't luck, it's strategy, paired with action. Rich Dad warned about the dangers of being too narrowly skilled. Many brilliant people excel in one field, and if that field changes, they're left stranded. Rich Dad valued versatility, being able to adapt, cross-learn, and pivot. Robert's own path, from Marines to sales to investing, showed the strength of diverse experience. Invention happens when you combine financial education, courage to act, ability to collaborate, persistence over fear. Rich Dad often said, the rich invent money, the poor wait for a paycheck. That difference, between inventing and receiving, is what separates lifelong survival from generational wealth. As Robert reflected on this lesson, he understood why some people remained average despite intelligence or ambition. Because they let fear dominate their vision, they never tried to create money, only chase it. But the moment you start thinking like Rich Dad, seeing problems as profits, the tide shifts. You're no longer a wage earner. You become a wealth inventor. Robert was just beginning to unlock the true power of money. He still had chapters ahead, overcoming obstacles, mastering mindset, and turning knowledge into freedom. But the moment he learned that the rich invent money, that changed everything. Chapter 7. Overcoming Obstacles. Have you ever asked yourself, if the path to wealth is clear, why aren't more people rich? It's not knowledge that's missing. It's not opportunity. It's the inner battles that people lose: fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance. Even the most brilliant financial strategies mean nothing if your mind is full of fear. The one obstacle: fear. Fear is the biggest dream killer in the world. Not the fear of failure, but the fear of losing money. Most people aren't taught how to deal with loss. They're taught to avoid it. They think, what if I invest and lose everything? What if I look stupid? What if I can't recover? But here's what the rich understand. Losing is part of winning. You learn when you fail. You grow when you lose. You become smarter when you recover. Rich Dad used to say, you lose a little money, and you think the world is ending. That's not failure. That's training. Obstacle 2. Cynicism. We live in a world filled with noise. Don't do that. Real estate is risky. Stocks are gambling. That business will fail. Most people listen to these voices and freeze. Cynicism is like mental poison. It paralyzes decision-making. But rich people learn to filter the noise and think for themselves. The key is due diligence, not doubt. Rich Dad said, don't let other people's fear become your truth. Learn, research, act. Obstacle 3. Laziness. This one surprises many. People say, I'm not lazy. I work 12 hours a day. But there's a difference between being busy and being productive. Sometimes, We use work as an excuse to avoid the hard thinking that leads to freedom. Lazy people don't ask the deeper questions. How can I make money work for me? What systems can I build? What assets can I create? We hide behind busy work because true financial thinking demands mental effort, discipline, and risk. The rich overcome this laziness by focusing on motivation, on their why. Rich Dad used to ask, "What's your reason? Your dream? Your goal?" When your why is strong enough, your laziness disappears. Obstacle 4. Bad habits. Most people pay themselves last. They pay the bills, the rent, the groceries, and if anything is left over, they might save. The rich do the opposite. They pay themselves first, they invest, they build, and they force themselves to figure out the rest. This habit builds financial discipline. It creates pressure to think creatively, to find ways to meet obligations after building your wealth. Bad habits don't go away by themselves. They are replaced by better ones. Obstacle 5. Arrogance. When you think you know everything, you stop learning. Poor Dad believed in academic knowledge, degrees, diplomas, certificates. But Rich Dad believed in real-world learning. He said, "Every time you're arrogant, you close the door to something you could have learned." The rich surround themselves with smarter people. They ask questions. They listen. They pay attention to mistakes, not to punish themselves, but to improve. Arrogance is often a mask for insecurity. And it's insecurity that keeps people poor. Final power thought. Obstacles are not blocks. They are tests. Everyone wants to be rich. But not everyone is willing to fight the internal battles that wealth demands. The rich don't just invest in assets. They invest in their mindset. They build courage, kill laziness, fix their habits, stay humble, and take action despite fear. So, if you want to build wealth, start by looking inward. Because once you win the war in your mind, money starts to follow. Chapter 8. Getting started. So, you've read the lessons. You've felt the shift. You now know the difference between working for money and making money work for you. But here's the real question. How do you actually begin? Robert Kiyosaki answers it loud and clear in this chapter. The hardest part isn't understanding wealth. The hardest part is simply getting started. Step 1. The power of choice. It all begins with a decision. A real one. Not the "I'll try" kind, but the burn the boats, no turning back kind of choice. Most people wait for the perfect moment. The right job. The right salary. The right idea. But the rich, they act first. They move even if it's messy, imperfect, or scary. Rich Dad used to say, "Don't wait for life to push you. Push yourself. Choose wealth. Choose freedom. Choose to start building assets, no matter how small." Step 2. Feed your mind. The first asset isn't real estate. It's not stocks. It's your brain. Wealthy people are obsessed with learning. They devour books, seminars, courses, conversations, experiences. Robert reminds us, "Every rich person I know reads, listens, and studies non-stop." Want to get rich? Start feeding your mind richer thoughts. Educate yourself about money, markets, strategies, and psychology. Because your mind is the pipeline to your financial future. Step 3. Choose your heroes. Who are you learning from? Poor Dad admired academic success. Rich Dad admired financial success. Kiyosaki urges us to pick real-life heroes who've built, invested, and succeeded. Learn their moves. Study their decisions. Absorb their mindset. Rich people don't just follow trends. They follow models, people who've done it before. You want to get rich? Then hang around rich ideas, rich actions, and rich role models. Step 4. Take action. This is where most people get stuck. They read. They plan. They dream. But they don't move. Kiyosaki says, "You don't have to start big. You just have to start. Buy a small stock. Go to an investment seminar. Join a financial group. Take a course. Buy a property. Sell a product. Just do something. Because wealth rewards movement, not hesitation. Rich Dad didn't wait to become a millionaire to start investing. He started when he had little and grew into wealth. Step 5. Pay yourself first. Most people pay bills, taxes, and expenses, and if there's anything left, they save. But the rich reverse this. They pay themselves first. They invest first. They build assets before they worry about expenses. Why? Because it creates pressure. It forces you to think smart, act fast, and focus on income-generating activities. It's not about how much you earn. It's about where your money goes first. Step 6. Master one formula, then diversify. Don't chase every opportunity. Don't jump from real estate to crypto to stocks to MLMs to side hustles in 1 week. Instead, master one wealth formula. Learn it inside out. Get good at it. Then, diversify. Rich Dad believed in depth, not just width. Get rich in one lane, then open other roads. Maybe for you, it's rental property, or stock trading, or creating content. Pick one. Commit. Step 7. The power of giving. Now here's a surprising one. Kiyosaki says, if you want something, give it first. Want money? Give money. Want knowledge? Teach someone. Want inspiration? Inspire others. Why? Because giving activates receiving. The more you circulate value, the more value flows back to you. This isn't philosophy. It's practical energy. It builds your confidence, your relationships, and your inner wealth. Final power thought. Getting rich isn't a one-time event. It's a daily decision. It's not about how much you make. It's about how much you keep, how much you invest, and how much you grow. The path isn't easy, but it's simple. Start small. Start today. Start smart. And most importantly, just start. Chapter 9. Still want more? Here are some to-dos. You've made it this far. You've understood the mindset. You've seen the difference between rich and poor thinking. And now, you're asking, what do I do next? Robert Kiyosaki doesn't just leave you inspired. He gives you a roadmap, real actions. Not theory, not fluff, but specific, doable steps that can turn your financial dreams into reality. So let's break them down. 1. Stop doing what you're doing. If you're broke, or stuck, or spinning your wheels financially, stop. Take a breath. Step back. Look at what you're doing, and ask, is this working? Because repeating the same actions while expecting different results? That's not strategy. That's a trap. Rich Dad taught, if you want new results, you need new actions. So stop. Reassess. Reset. Then restart. 2. Look for new ideas. Money is an idea. Wealth is a concept. Want more money? Then hunt for better ideas. They're out there, in books, podcasts, mentors, even failures. Robert says, the single most powerful asset we all have is our mind. If it's trained well, it can create enormous wealth. Don't limit yourself to the ideas of the past. Expose yourself to new thoughts. The world is overflowing with million-dollar ideas, if you're curious enough to look. 3. Find someone who has done what you want to do. Success leaves clues. Rich Dad never believed in reinventing the wheel. He believed in learning from those who've done it already. Want to succeed in real estate? Find a successful investor. Want to start a business? Shadow a great entrepreneur. And most importantly, listen. Ask questions. Take notes. Learn what they don't teach in school. Copy the moves of the rich, until you invent your own. 4. Take classes, buy books, attend seminars. This isn't school. This is real financial education. Invest in yourself. Seriously. Skip the fancy gadgets. Buy that course. Join that mastermind. Subscribe to that newsletter. You are your greatest asset. And every dollar you spend sharpening your skills multiplies your financial future. Rich people don't stop learning after college. They keep leveling up, always. 5. Make offers. Want to be a player? You've got to get in the game. Kiyosaki says, make offers. Low ones, high ones, bold ones. Just make offers. Because every offer teaches you something about negotiation, value, and courage. Most people wait until everything is perfect. But the rich, they act. Make that call. Send that email. Pitch that deal. Because motion beats perfection every time. 6. Think bigger. Small thinking creates small results. Kiyosaki challenges us. Don't aim to save pennies. Aim to create millions. Think assets. Think equity. Think ownership. Ask, how can I earn while I sleep? How can I make money move without me? If your goals don't scare you a little, you're not thinking big enough. 7. Learn to evaluate risk and reward. Here's the truth. There is no wealth without risk. But not all risks are equal. Rich people study. They analyze. They calculate. They take educated risks, not blind ones. Poor dad taught safety. Rich dad taught strategy. So don't fear risk. Understand it. Measure it. Manage it. Master it. 8. Use your emotions to drive you. Fear, doubt, anger, frustration. These emotions aren't the enemy. Inaction is. Use your feelings as fuel. Are you tired of being broke? Sick of working 2 jobs? Annoyed by the system? Good. Let that frustration push you into action. Let fear become focus. Let anger become ambition. Rich Dad taught. Don't suppress emotion. Channel it. Start small, but start now. You don't need $1 million to begin. You need momentum. Buy 1 share. Write 1 blog post. Call 1 investor. Read 1 financial article. Success isn't 1 big leap. It's 1,000 tiny steps in the right direction. Don't wait. Start where you are. With what you have. Right now. 10. Keep going, no matter what. You will fall. You will fail. You will doubt yourself. But if you stop, you lose. Kiyosaki reminds us that every rich person he knows, every single one, has stories of failure, bankruptcy, embarrassment, fear. But they all share one trait. They kept going. Persistence is the superpower. Stick with it long enough, and the world has no choice but to yield. Final power thought. You don't need a fancy degree. You don't need 1 million followers. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to start doing. Do what others won't. Learn what others avoid. Risk what others fear. And you'll live how others dream. The road is open. Your mind is armed. The choice is yours. Final thoughts. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So here we are, at the end of a book that wasn't just meant to be read, but felt, questioned, and lived. Rich Dad, Poor Dad wasn't just the story of 2 fathers. It was the story of 2 belief systems. One said, go to school, get good grades, and find a secure job. The other said, learn how money works. Make money work for you. And in between those voices stood a young boy who had to decide which world he wanted to live in. Robert chose freedom over fear, assets over paychecks, abundance over scarcity. And the truth is, so can you. What have we learned? Money is not just earned, it's understood. Being rich is not about income, it's about mindset. And the real wealth? It's the ability to take control of your life, your time, and your choices. Rich Dad taught us that assets build wealth. Liabilities steal it silently. And the rat race, that endless cycle of paycheck-to-paycheck survival, it only ends when you take full responsibility for your financial education. Think about this. No school teaches you how to become rich. No teacher hands you the blueprint to financial freedom. And no degree guarantees peace of mind at night. But this book, these lessons, they light the spark. The rest is up to you. You don't need to be born rich. You don't need permission from anyone. All you need is the mindset of Rich Dad and the courage to start. Let this be your beginning. Start your journey. Invest in learning. Track your expenses. Buy your first asset. Fail forward. Learn fast. Keep moving. And never stop asking, is this making me richer or trapping me deeper? And now, if you found this audiobook powerful, if even one idea opened your eyes, if you felt inspired, challenged, or motivated, then this is just the beginning of your transformation. Subscribe to our channel, Minds Quotes, where powerful ideas become reality. Here, we don't just talk success. We build it. One quote, one idea, one mindset at a time. Your journey to financial freedom doesn't end here. It starts now. And we'll be right beside you. This was Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, brought to life in voice, story, and emotion, only on Minds Quotes. Subscribe, like, share, and never stop growing.